Hey everyone, and welcome. Ever wondered how modern websites like Instagram or Airbnb feel so snappy, so fast and responsive? Well, a huge part of that magic is a tool called React. Today we're going to break down what it is and how it works using a really simple idea: digital Legos.
Okay, so let's get the official definition out of the way first. React is a JavaScript library that was created and is now maintained by Meta, the company formerly known as Facebook. Its whole purpose in life is to help developers build user interfaces, or UIs. And the UI is just everything you see and interact with on a web page: the buttons, the search bars, the menus, all of it.
But honestly, the best way to really get it is to think about building a website with actual Legos. Imagine each little piece of the site, a button, a navigation menu, maybe a user's profile picture, is its own separate Lego block. With React, you build all these little blocks individually, and then you just snap them together to create your entire website. It's a really powerful and, more importantly, an organized way to build things. So here's the game plan. We'll start with the big idea of React. Then we're going to jump right in and show you how to start your very first project. After that, we'll look at those Lego blocks, which are called components. We'll cover the special language we use to build them, called JSX. Then we'll see how it all actually gets onto the screen. And finally, we'll wrap up with the most important takeaways.
So let's dig in with the big idea. Why did React become so incredibly popular in the first place? What problem does it solve?
Well, it really comes down to three huge wins. First, it's crazy fast. And that's because instead of reloading the entire page every time something changes, React is smart enough to only update the one tiny piece that needs it. Second, those Lego blocks we keep talking about are reusable. You build a search bar once and you can just pop that same block onto 10 different pages. No need to build it again and again. And third, all of this makes managing really complex user interfaces like a detailed dashboard with lots of moving parts so much easier to handle.
All right, enough theory. Let's actually do something. I'm going to show you how to get a React project up and running on your own computer. And trust me, it's a super simple three-step process you can do right from your terminal.
First up, you'll run this command: npx create react app my app. This one command is like a magic wand. It downloads and sets up a complete, ready-to-go React project for you. Next, you just navigate into that new folder with cd my app, and finally, to bring it to life, you run npm start. Your web browser will automatically pop open, and bam, you're looking at your brand new running React app. It's honestly that easy to get started.
Now we get to the really fun part: building with our digital Legos, or what React officially calls components. This is the absolute core of how React works, so this is the main idea to latch onto.
So what is a component? Well, at its heart, it's incredibly simple. It's just a JavaScript function. That's it. This function right here, named app, does one thing and one thing only. It returns a piece of UI that looks, well, it looks exactly like HTML, right? That H1 tag is what will eventually be displayed on the screen.
But the real power comes from creating lots of small, focused components. So here, we've made another one in its own file, and we've called it header. Its only job in the entire universe is to return a welcome message. Think of this as creating your own specialized custom Lego piece.
And this is where it all comes together. We go back to our main app component, we import the header we just made, and then we place it inside the return statement just like it was a standard HTML tag. We've just snapped our header Lego into our main app structure. This is called composition, and it is absolutely fundamental to building with React. Now, you've probably been looking at this and thinking, wait a minute, is that HTML inside of a JavaScript file? And the answer is, kinda. It's not a mistake. It's actually a special syntax called JSX, and it's what makes writing React components feel so intuitive and clean.
So JSX stands for JavaScript XML. You can think of it as a syntax extension, or a little add-on for JavaScript that lets us describe what our UI should look like using a syntax that's incredibly familiar to anyone who's ever seen HTML.
And this comparison right here really shows you why JSX is such a game changer. Without it, you'd have to use this react.createElement function for every single little thing on the page. It gets really messy and hard to read really fast. But with JSX, you just write what you want to see. It's clean, it's declarative, and it's just so much easier to work with.
Of course, like any language, there are a few simple rules to follow. First, your component has to return a single parent element. So you can see in our earlier example, we wrapped everything in a div. Second, because class is a reserved word in JavaScript, you have to use class name when you want to add CSS styles.
And third, and this is where it gets really powerful, you can embed any JavaScript expression directly into your UI just by wrapping it in these curly braces.
Let's look at that last rule in action. Here we've got a JavaScript variable called name. By putting name inside our h1 tag, React will automatically see that, evaluate it, and display hello a tool on the screen. This is how you make your components dynamic and driven by data. So we've built our components with JSX, but how do they actually show up on a real web page? That final step is called rendering, and it's what connects our React code to the actual HTML file that shows up in the browser.
This all happens in a file called index.js. The code here does two main things. First, it finds an HTML element on the page that has an ID of root. Then, the render function tells React to take our main app components and all the other components nested inside it and inject it right into that spot.
And here is that target. Inside your project's public folder, there's an index.html file. It's mostly empty, but it contains this one crucial line, a single div with the ID of root. Our entire complex React application gets built and then placed right inside this single div. Pretty wild, right?
And that's pretty much the whole process, from a single component to a fully rendered application. So let's just quickly recap the blueprint we've just walked through.
So to recap the big ideas, React is a library for building user interfaces. We do this by creating reusable Lego blocks of code that we call components. We write these components using a special HTML-like syntax called JSX. And finally, the index.js file is what renders our main component into the HTML for the whole world to see.
Now, we moved pretty quickly through these concepts, but if you want to dive in and actually play with the code yourself, you can find all the code snippets from this explainer, plus some more details, all linked right in the description.
You now have the fundamental blueprint for building with React, this idea of components as digital Legos. The only question left is, what will you build first?